6. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the most awesomest homesteading channel on the planet that has absolutely nothing to do whatsoever with homesteading off the grid. This is creeping me out. I'm gonna have to take my jacket off, and it's not to market these shirts that I actually designed that you can buy from our store in some scroll bar below the video or whatever. It's because I can't see myself. Hold on, give me a second. Now I'm stuck. All right, so here's what's going on. We're going to address some notable comments or concerns that you have, because I just put a lot of stuff together that you've been saying in the comments and brought it out to address it. Now listen, get my 6 for those of you who are new to the channel, and to my understanding there's quite a few of you. That's military jargon for watch behind me, get my back. You know, because when you're fighting as a unit with your group, you need to watch what's behind me. Something's making that strange sound. Let's get to it. Oh, the shirt. Yeah, this is my theory. Bigfoot Sasquatch is really only hiding from the IRS. Seriously, we've talked about that in the past. It goes back to the Lewis and Clark expedition, when they may potentially have met clans of these creatures and explained about the new father, and Bigfoot Sasquatch was like, yeah, we're cool with that, until they got to the point about taxation and all that. And they explained to the Bigfoot Sasquatches that, you know, since you are bigger and stronger, you can probably do more than most. So you will have to reward our collective group of folks who are represented by your new father, the Great White Father. They called the presidents back then when we were still pushing west. And, you know, Thomas Jefferson, he did the Louisiana Purchase thing. We didn't even know how big it was. So we sent Lewis and Clark out there to see how much land it was. And when they met these tribes and they explained how they were going to be taxed at a higher percentage, especially than the human beings people, because, well, if you can produce more because you're bigger and you're stronger and you work harder, well, that's just not fair. So we'll probably only take 20% from those people, but we're going to take 40% from you. I honestly believe that's when Bigfoot Sasquatch went into hiding. He, or she, or it. Well, I mean, their entire community said, why are we going to work so hard just to, reward the people who aren't working as hard as us with our, the fruits of our labor? So they went into hiding. So that's my theory on that. But that's just my theory. I don't have proof of that. We're going to get to some more theories and what you guys are saying, because a lot of this stuff makes great sense. I'm going to give you some trigger warnings, though, because we do have some soft individuals, I guess, that watch my videos. Throughout this video, it's a cold day out here. I will sip my coffee. I will take drinks of my coffee while I'm making this video. So, I mean, there's a trigger warning on that. At least I took the sticker off the bottom of the tumbler. Somebody crashed out over that. They just lost their crap, man. All right, so anyway, and then here's another trigger warning. I will be discussing well-seasoned red oak. Okay, now for some reason that caused a bunch of people a couple of years ago to just lose their crap or crash out, as the cool kids of Gen Z, is that what they are? Yeah, say today. So, and with that in mind, I did promise a couple of Gen Zers that I would finish a story. This is only going to take a minute or less, that I didn't. This is crazy. So, it's funny. Years ago, the vertically challenged individuals who live under bridges. All right, and if you're new, that means a troll. I don't like to use the word troll with internet trolls, because these people are in pain, and it's a derogatory term, and it's just not nice. So I try to be nice. So I call them vertically challenged individuals who live under bridges, okay? Because, hey, if you change the terminology, then it's not as painful, right? Like when, I used to have PTSD from the war in Iraq. A few years back, they just changed it to PTS. And supposedly that's supposed to relieve my symptoms to a bit because I don't have the negative connotation associated with the word or whatever, the stick. Dude, I'm still nuts. It's the same. Okay, so whatever. It doesn't work. That's stupid. But anyway, here's what's going on. So these vertically challenged individuals several years back, they used to, in the comments, and this is when we started our channel. People are like, why even call it that, Homesteading Off the Grid? You're like always like doing Bigfoot stuff or these ghosts and stuff in the woods, weird stuff. You don't even grow tomatoes or beans. Well, because we sucked at that. But people were seeing a lot of the weird things happening in the background of the video. Yeah, like that guy standing right there. I see him. Now, you know my style. If you're new, you don't. I can't turn around and look right now at this entity directly, whatever that is, because it just won't be there. So we got to pick them up on camera, okay? Timestamp it. If you saw it, put it in there. Trigger warning. So the vertically challenged individuals who live under bridges used to say, OMG, you got a kid. You got to stop this nonsense. What will, you might not care, but what will all of his friends think or all the school kids think when he's in middle school if, they think his dad's some crazy kook out there looking for Bigfoot Sasquatches and all this stuff. I mean, that was a very common comment. And, well, let me be honest with you about it. We weren't doing very well, from the business aspect of YouTube with green beans and corn that we couldn't grow because we have brown thumbs. I mean, my wife, literally, she's Filipina. I'm pretty white. I am pretty fly for a white guy, but my thumbs are pretty brown. So we were but people would see these things in the backdrop, and that's when you folks started showing up. Next thing you know, it's like, wow, look at that. This is actually a profitable business venture. So when we saw those comments, the truth was this. If we don't just bring the cameras out and showcase to the world some of this weird stuff going on around here, we didn't have the luxury of thinking far enough ahead of what will his kids think or his friends think 6 years down the road, because we were trying to keep the house. We were trying to pay the mortgage and put food on that kid's table. We did that, and we did that to a very strong degree. And now he is in middle school. He plays football with a lot of exceptional young men, 28 young men who in one way or another, each in their own degrees, really overcame obstacles this season and proved to themselves that they're capable of doing more than they thought they could. Some of those kids, simply by not quitting the team when they wanted to quit, but by hanging in there, playing through pain, if they were a little more seriously injured, they'd stay off of it until they recovered enough till they could get back out there. They're still there. Not one kid quit, okay? And then we had kids who had never played before who are now not just some of the best players on our team, starting on both offense and defense, some of them both, but they're the best players in the entire league. And that's evidenced by the fact that, this coming weekend, as of this recording, our team's playing in our league Super Bowl. We're 7-1, 6-1. No, we're 5-1 in the regular season, won our playoff championship, so we're 6-1. And then this weekend, we're playing the only team to beat us all year for the championship, okay? And some of the kids that are going to be in that game throughout its entirety have never played football before. They came, they wanted to participate. No, they wanted to dominate. None of this standing around on the sideline participating stuff. These guys wanted to dominate, so they paid attention to the coaches. They followed instruction. They got support from their teammates because their teammates saw that they were the kids that actually wanted to do well. They wanted to win. And now here they are, the best players in the league. And what's this have to do with this? Well, a lot of my son's friends know about this now. A lot of them watch, and they think it's the coolest daggone thing in the world. Because you know what 80% of school-age children today want to be when they grow up? Influencers. Social media content creators, digital creators. Back then, 10 years ago, I've been doing this for 15 years. People are like, that's stupid. You must be lazy. You must not want a real job. I'd tell them, nah, man, I'm not lazy. I'm out here putting in 80 hours a week creating content, trying to figure out how to go viral, trying to, they're like, but that's not real work. You just don't want a real job. People from my family of origin said that. And as around the time I excommunicated myself from them, I divorced them, and I've stayed the hell away ever since, because anybody in your circle who's not cheering for you doesn't belong in your circle. And if you've got folks with crab mentality in your circle, folks who are going to tell you after you go out there and put forth your best effort, and then they're going to tell you how you did it wrong or how it looks stupid, or they're going to judge you when you're making an effort and they're not, get them out of your life. And I've done that, and that includes blood relatives to me, okay? The kids think it's cool because now it's like that's what everybody wants to grow up and be. So there's the answer to that. So with this said, what's this have to do with all this Bigfoot Sasquatch stuff? Is Bigfoot Sasquatch actually having a name? Yeah. Well, kid approached me at school or at football practice yesterday, and he says, "Hey, coach," this one didn't know yet. He says, "I didn't know you had a YouTube channel." I said, "Oh, who told you?" And I mentioned this other kid's name that I know's friends with this kid. This kid's not on the football team, but I coach this other kid in basketball. I know they live beside each other. They know each other. He goes, no, it was so-and-so. Well, he mentioned another kid that I had no clue knew about the channel. And I was like, how did he know? He goes, I don't know. I think so-and-so told him or so-and-so, but this is terrible. I do not want to get anybody in trouble. He says he watches your YouTube videos during a certain class, and I'm not even going to say what class it is. I'm like, oh no, you've got to be kidding me. And this kid, he's a great kid. I'm sure he's a straight A student, and he's an exceptional athlete. Why? He puts forth 100% effort with everything he does, and he's got a mother and a father who are very supportive of him, and you see it. They're out there with him. They show up at practices. They're on game day. Oh, great. I'm getting this kid in trouble. They're going to know who he is. I got to stop. But let me tell you, we appreciate everything, because his supportive parents not just support him, they also support our group as a unit. So this kid, this awesome kid who's great at everything except for paying attention in class, I guess, is watching my videos. Well, as flattering as that was, that doesn't really sit well with me, because I want these guys to like be where they're at, focus on the task at hand, watch my silly YouTube videos later, and that includes school. I want them to do as well as they can in everything they do, because anything worth doing is worth doing well, even if it's something you have to do that you don't really like. And that's why it was so important for us to see the kids that wanted to quit, that didn't quit, stick with it. Because when you grow up and you get out there in the real world, there's going to be all kinds of stuff you got to do that you don't like. That's just how it is. But if you develop the habit of just quitting when you're faced with a challenge that's either difficult or uncomfortable, painful. I've seen some of these kids hit each other at football practice. That would hurt. That does hurt. Hurts them, not me. It hurts me seeing it sometimes. But if your go-to is to just quit, you'll do it for the rest of your life, because we are that which we repeatedly do. We form habits. My gosh, it's supposed to be about Bigfoot Sasquatch, and it's going to be, but listen to this. There was a kid one year, it was a certain sport, it was with this league that's not competitive, and he was never on time, missed a lot of practices, never had his equipment, always forgot it at home. And then he was talking about the following season going up a level to the next league, which was a lot more serious, a lot more competitive. So I was trying to work with him with this participation league. It was a participation league. It wasn't a domination league. I said, well, you got to be on time. Become the guy that gets there early. Make sure before you leave your house, do a hands-on inspection, because I learned this in the Army. I'm trying to teach them, okay, I need 3 things. Do not roll out of your driveway until you have done an eyes-on and a hands-on inspection of those 3 things in your car. And say, okay, Mom and Dad, it's time to go. Oh, he just thought that was the dumbest thing in the world, because, he wasn't taking that participation league seriously because it didn't really matter. But when he got to the next level, he would do all those things I told him. And I told him, I pleaded with him. I said, you can't wait. Do it now. Because we are that which we do repeatedly. And you're forming these habits of always being late, not being prepared, not having your equipment. And it's the habit that's going to stick with you, not your view of whether this is important or not. Well, that kid later went on to that next level, and it was just the same thing. Always late, missed half the practices, never had his equipment, to include on game day. So there's the proof and the tasting of the pudding. So anyway, I went over to the kid that's watching my videos in class instead of paying attention to class. And I'm like, I hear this is going on. He says, yeah. And I said, why? You know what he said? He said, because your videos are entertaining and that class isn't. It's boring. And what do you say to somebody when they're right? There's a reason we homeschool our kid. Because actual instruction time during the day is like 2 hours. The other 8 is wasted time. And we don't want our kid to get into that habit of, well, let's just waste 80% of our time throughout our day and wonder why we're not productive. Because remember, you can be busy all day, but being busy and being productive are two entirely different things. If you're running around running errands, going 8 different places and doing this and doing that, and all you go to your office, well, shoot, my office is a mess. I can't get any work done until I clean it up. So here's the end of the day. Got a clean office, got a bunch of errands run. How much money did you make? Well, none, because I had to do that. My gosh, I'm just so busy. Yeah, you're busy, but you're not productive. So that's what we're helping our son learn through observing our life. I mean, people think I'm lazy because I work an hour or 2 a day and make the equivalent GDP of small third world nations. And that's not because I'm smart. It's because I'm efficient. Okay. I know the value of my time. I place importance upon it properly. And then plus I've been doing this for 15 years. And when I was uncomfortable and when I got behind on the mortgage, I never gave up. I never quit. I always went back to fundamentals. Okay, what is it that's worked in the past, but how has things changed? Because things are always evolving. The algorithms are always looking for something new, but whatever. I just never quit. I stuck with it. I hung in there. And man, what a difference it made. Okay, so it's a formula. Like winning and succeeding, it's a formula. And it all matters. If you're not taking this seriously over here, you're going to form that habit of not taking things seriously. And when it's time to be serious, you're just not going to be able to do it. And so I kind of talked about that with the kid. And he told me, so he can't get in too much trouble, Mom and Dad, if you're watching. He said, okay, Coach, I will not watch your videos in school anymore. I'll wait until I get home, after practice or whatever. I'm saying, great, we got a week left. Just wait. Watch that stuff next week, okay? But then another kid overheard, and he says, Coach, he says, I watched your video from the other day, and you started to say something, but you didn't finish it. And here's what it is. This goes back to when I was talking about, this was the video where I gave the urgent Bigfoot Sasquatch warning, and it has to do with temperatures. It's so warm. I mean, it's chilly today, but it should have been, these temperatures we should have been seeing 2 months ago. They're just now starting to come in, and it's because of a storm that came down from the Arctic. They're not going to stay. It's going to be the warmest weather on record. And look, just randomly, it's confusing Mother Nature. This is from an oak tree. It's down here on the ground because we had high winds last night, but these things are so confused they're starting to bud as if it were spring. We've got fruit trees down in our orchard, one of our orchards, that's starting to, it's like they want to produce fruit. Our honeybees don't have the honey stores built up because they've eaten through them, because the days have been so warm. They're still going out to work to collect, but there's no pollen left because it's almost December. So I'm feeding the bees. There's all kinds of, but here was that, you can go back and watch that 30-minute video or get it right here. If you're a hunter, if you're a hiker, if you're a YouTuber, and you're going in the woods, you have got to get your own 6. Yeah, see, and just like that, look, now it's gone, isn't it? Told you, you got to watch out. Because the male Bigfoot Sasquatches, just like the male bucks, they will only go into their heavy rut where they're very motivated to reproduce with the female Bigfoot Sasquatches. That is spurred by cold temperatures. Temperatures have to go below freezing in our zone 7 Central Virginia, and they need to stay there for a couple of weeks. That'll put the bucks in heavy rut. That'll put the Bigfoot Sasquatches in heavy rut. But now, as far as the females of all these species going into estrus, that is brought about by lunar and solar cycles. Those are okay, even though they're off just a bit. But they're out here rearing and ready to go. The does in the deer world, the females in the Bigfoot Sasquatch world, they're ready to go. But it's as if you got a bunch of beta male mama boys out here who aren't willing to service them. And it's because of the temperatures. In this instance, it's Mother Nature who is over-mothering. She's keeping it too warm. So these boy Bigfoot Sasquatches are not growing up to become men. They're growing up to be boy adults, or, you know what I mean? Adult boy Bigfoot Sasquatches, not men. So if you're out here in the woods, you better be careful, or wear a chastity belt. And you know what all that means. And that's, so this is what the kid was asking me about. I was talking about what are the females of our species and mammals, all mammals, attracted to. I said it's not good looks. That's only number 3. And then I stopped there. Well, this guy wanted to know what the other 2 were, so I'm going to tell you right now, and then I'm going to get into this, okay? Clearly, it's not good looks. That's number 3. You guys have all seen my beautiful bride, Dearly, a.k.a. Giggly Girl. She's beautiful. She's gorgeous on the inside and the outside, and she's clearly not with me for my looks, right? Okay, so that's number 3. Now, the number 1 thing that men are attracted to in regard to women is looks. I heard a howl or a growl. Keep getting my 6. Okay, but looks is only number 3 in regards to what attracts women to men, females to males, among mammals. Number 2, this is just for people. You know what it is? Here's how you can kind of start to understand how I have my wife, unless you take things too seriously and you don't get wit and dry humor. Sense of humor. If you can make a girl laugh, and I didn't tell this kid this, FYI, but through experience I've found, you make them laugh hard enough, they'll laugh their clothes off. All right. Number 1. The number 1. Oh, shoot. I forgot to give a trigger warning. I did not bring a tissue, so at times I might wipe my nose on the sleeve of my shirt like a 3-year-old. Yeah. I've had people crash out on that crap too, man. It's like, seriously, dude, I am like a rural white male, post-middle age, and I live in the woods. I don't carry Kleenexes around with me. All right, so the number 1, trigger warning. The number 1 thing that attracts women to men, females to males, in the human world is your perceived ability to provide for them and their offspring. Notice what I said, them and their offspring. First of all, they want to know that you can provide for them and their offspring. And so this is why it's so important not to be a beta male. I mean, it's one of the reasons. I mean, if you're an alpha, you get it. We like hot girls. We like hot chicks, right? So that's why you'll often see alphas. They strive. It's like they understand what's the biological nature of themselves in ways that betas don't. I think a lot of it is because as human beings, we try to think we're something we're not, and we're just animals. And science is real, no matter how convoluted your ideology. Science is real. Archaeology is pretty real, and what I'll tell you is every time an archaeologist discovers human remains, it's either male or female. Science is real. And it's the same in the Bigfoot Sasquatch world. That's why you got to be careful during warm winters. You either don't go into the woods or wear a chastity belt if you do. I'm going to have to make me a chastity belt because I'm coming to the woods this winter. So anyway, yeah, so anyway, that's why it's important. And that's why I love coaching, to kind of help steer boys towards and making even maybe just little steps, baby steps at a time towards becoming men, so they don't grow up just to be adult boys. You know what I mean? So that answers that question. And now let's get to this. Okay. Trisha Ray Salas 7831 said one day ago, she was commenting on one of the videos. She says, "It's just a Bigfoot. Our tribes are used to them." So this would lead me to think maybe this person is maybe part of a Native American group, part of a tribe. And then she continues, "It thinks you are encroaching on its territory. They normally leave people..." Pay attention to these odd sounds and any flashing lights you may see around me or slight movements, because it's going to be explained. "They normally leave people alone, but the males are very territorial. All of them will compete over a food source. It's rare for one of them to become aggressive. Occasionally, one sees humans as a food source or just likes to kill, but for the most part, they'll leave you alone. If they throw big rocks or trees, you're going to want to choose a new territory to work because that one isn't yours. If you get suddenly really sick, you'll want to move. That's a violent kind. And if you remember going back years on this show, I used to get violently sick when we were in the presence of these things. That was a tree knock. Moving forward, Jess L. Llewellyn. They're getting closer. I need to speed this up. She says, "Oh, okay," and this goes back to what I was talking about with it being too warm and it's confusing nature and all that. She says, "All the 100-year-old white oaks on the road I live on are dying. I heard it's because it isn't getting cold enough here anymore, and the trees aren't going dormant like they should. Sad to see these giant trees dying off all at once." Okay, Jess L. Llewellyn, I wish you'd have told me where you live, or like what state. That's all, so I would know the region. So I would understand more about the plant life in your area. But what you point out actually is a truth. Just as some animals hibernate for the winter, deciduous hardwood trees like white oaks, they go dormant for the same purpose. They have a very active, busy part of their life cycle from spring to fall. And I used to teach biology in high school, okay? So this is coming from a scientific background, not just me and my views. There's about 7 or 8 months out of the year where these trees are doing so much work, producing food. That's the whole purpose of growing leaves. The nut-bearing trees and the fruit-bearing trees have more work to do because they also have to produce those fruits and nuts. They will spend more time in dormancy than the trees that don't produce fruit and nuts. I'll put it to you like this. The last leaves to come out on I'm going to use as an example a walnut tree versus a tree that doesn't produce nuts. The walnut trees in our walnut grove, which are like the trees that surround our house, but I have planted a ton of walnut trees here too. They're not producing yet. It takes 15 years. But they get their leaves last. And like, it's funny, my wife's first year here, she came here from the Philippines. She'd never seen a day below 84 degrees in her life, had never seen deciduous trees and bushes. She was convinced they were dead because all the other trees have their leaves on and the walnuts hadn't even started budding yet. Well, that's because they need a longer period of dormancy because they work so much more than the non-fruit and nut producing trees. So they get their leaves last. And then they get these walnuts and they go through this thing called June drop. It's where, and all nut and fruit trees will do this. Get all this, and if you don't understand, you think, oh my gosh, my trees are sick, something's wrong. No. If the seed inside that fruit or nut, which is the fruit or the nut, didn't get pollinated by a bee, then it's it's not going to, the seed from that nut or fruit will not produce another tree or bush. So the tree knows that and it will abort them. It just drops them. That's where the June drop comes from. So all the fruit or nuts that remain on that tree are there because they were pollinated. So those nuts and fruits will have seeds in them that will go on to produce another bush or a tree. It's just science and it's real, no matter how convoluted your ideology. Now those walnut trees, they'll do all that work and then they're the first trees to lose their leaves. They turn beautiful golden yellow color. Well, it's bright yellow. And then they drop first before some of the other trees, before the oaks certainly even start losing or start turning yellow or red or orange or whatever, depends on the type of oak. And I explained that to my wife as I'm explaining to you now. It's because that walnut tree worked so hard during that 5 or 6 months of its life cycle producing those nuts. It needs a longer period of dormancy. Well, like Jess L. Llewellyn says, if the temperatures aren't getting cold enough and remaining cold enough long enough, these trees aren't going dormant for as long as they need to get that rest, to be able to successfully have a successful 7 or 8 months of their life cycle when they're doing all these other things. And I mention that because there's a ton of dried up plum trees in our fruit orchard that probably won't produce at all because of stratification. Those seeds have to remain below freezing for 120 days, and if they don't, they won't produce. They just won't even bloom. You could plant them and fertilize them and water them, and they just won't even come up. They won't even sprout. And that's a problem we're facing for next year. But I will point this out too, Jess L. Llewellyn. And if you see this, please let me know. I want to see if this might, your other problem might be that you're talking about old trees on the road you live on. Have they recently come through and paved your road or done any sort of road work? Because the number one way a lot of folks kill mature trees is they'll pave their driveway. Maybe they bought a house like ours. I almost paved our driveway a couple of years ago, but I didn't because I didn't want to kill these mature locusts that line it. It's a gravel driveway, so when we get, if it's a little rough, we'll just get gravel and fill it with gravel. Trees breathe. And I know you think, well, yeah, they breathe in carbon dioxide and they make oxygen. That's true. And one mature oak tree, like you're talking about, makes enough oxygen in one day to support 4 adult humans for one day. So we need the trees. But they also take in oxygen. The way they produce food, it's a process called photosynthesis. And this is going to be about Bigfoot Sasquatch, not science. Well, that is science. Well, it's a pseudoscience. But not, okay, listen. Photosynthesis, it's how they make their food. Everybody thinks, you just suck up this sunlight and then, there's these chemicals in here. Well, listen, those chemicals get there by way of a chemical reaction. And the tree needs oxygen and sugar to combine, just like they're making strawberry wine. It's like a fermentation process that produces their fruit or their food that they eat. What they suck out of the leaves in the fall makes the leaves real pretty colored, and then the leaves fall off, and then the tree has all their food stored for winter. Well, that's where the oxygen comes in. Yes, they're breathing the carbon dioxide, and their byproduct they're pushing out is oxygen for us, but they're also taking in oxygen to allow for that chemical reaction to take place to produce their food. How do they get it? The two main ways they get it is through the bark. The bark is very porous, so they actually absorb oxygen through the bark. And the more mature the tree, the more they bring in through their roots. Go anywhere where there's mature trees. You'll see where the roots are they're above the terrain. They're not subterraneous or below the ground. They're actually coming up. This giant oak tree behind me that you can see partially right here, it sends out roots that come up above the ground as far as 20 feet, 30 feet away. Now those roots are in what's called the tree's drip line. The drip line is as far as the canopy of that individual tree extends. Now when it rains, all these leaves collect the rain, all the water and all this stuff, and even after the rain stops, that rain will continue to drip off of those leaves and limbs to continue to water the tree, to make sure that tree is absorbing enough water. Okay, so a lot of those older roots come up, yes, for water, but also for that oxygen. These trees are taking in oxygen through those roots. So you come through, and if you pave over that, it can be done. But listen, call in an arborist. Call in somebody who either knows way more about trees than you do or knows way more about trees than you think you do, because when you cover up those roots, you cut off such a large amount of the oxygen that tree has been taking in for years to produce its own food. Then you also reduce its ability to take in water from that drip line. Oh, what do you do? Well, you put your driveway on the outside of the drip line, and it's not even a problem. Well, but then I have to rewrite. Well, what do you want? Do you want like your driveway to look a certain way, or do you want these trees that have lived for more than a century? So anyway, that's my point. So, Jess L. Llewellyn, I'd be curious your answer. Have they recently repaved your road? Because you'll see these tree roots growing up through pavement. Let's say the driveway was paved 30 years ago or something. And you come in and you're like, I want to just pave over that. Well, you go for it, but understand that all the trees along your driveway are going to die. And we see that a lot around here because we have yuppies that move out into the country from town or from the cities, and they just, whatever. I prefer my trees. That's why I didn't, and I'm not gonna, okay? All right, number 3, Birkenstock mom. This one's long, so I'm not gonna read all of it, but she's going on and on about this thing's getting closer, so I'm gonna have to hurry this up. Somebody she watches on YouTube who's a medium and speaks with Bigfoot. She mind speaks this person, and it says Bigfoot's real name is Aolin, and that is also where they come from. So I try not to assume because it makes asses out of you and other people when I do. Yeah, me. But it sounds like they come from some place called ALN. She continues, they are interdimensional. Remember, yesterday we were following something around here on this property that seemed to be going in and out of a dimension, and we've seen that so many times on this channel. They come here for food and because they like it. Hey, I get it. I get hungry and I like it here. I eat here all the time because I'm hungry and I like it here. See, we're not too different, and I hate the IRS. No, I don't hide from them because trust me, I'm a human being with a social security number. They will find me. And it's happened in the past. Trigger warning. Anyway, why not? Oh, and I'm going to get you to that well-seasoned red oak. That whole thing I was just talking about, trees breathing and their life cycle and the energy it takes and all that. Yeah. If you pave your driveway and you don't understand this stuff and you don't hire an arborist first and you end up with all these dead trees, I hope that you at least burn wood in a fireplace or a wood stove to provide heat for your house, because you're going to end up with a ton of well-seasoned red oak. Bruh. All right. Moving forward. They have a dry sense of humor. Maybe that's why they like me so much. Maybe they get it. All right. When they come through, a popping sound is heard and a flash of white light is seen. We've actually caught that on camera, haven't we? Yeah. The X's in the woods, which there's one right here, it's been there for years, can also mean friendship as well as stay away. And this is where I'm so confused, man. Because, I mean, are the ones around here friendly or not? There's an X. I don't know if they mean don't go past it or, hey, you're cool. We'll accept you. You can hang with us. I mean, I don't know. Okay. The knocking sounds are not made by Bigfoot. This is interesting. But by other interdimensional creatures who distract people away from Bigfoot. I totally can see that. Why? Because I understand nature and science. I know it's real despite anybody's convoluted ideology. Let's look at it says, listen, you can't pick and choose. It's funny how science was so real when the pandemic was going on a few years ago. And if you didn't listen to your doctor, you're just ignorant because he's a doctor or she's a doctor. But then just a couple years after that, it's like, oh, what do those old doctors know? Telling you were a boy or a girl. What? Because of your genitalia? Those doctors are fools. They don't know. You can't pick and choose. Science is real all the time, despite your convoluted ideology. Brah. Okay, so they age differently than we do, so they're much older than we are. Okay, yeah, I get it. They are really upset about fires in the woods and prefer the days of old. They care about humans, but some of them are bad. Humans or Bigfoot Sasquatches? I know there's plenty of bad humans out there, so I'm sure there's some bad Bigfoot Sasquatches out there. They see a white light coming out of the top of the head of a good human and will trust them. Could this be why I've had this up here the whole time? Everybody's like, look at this idiot. He wears his hat inside out. I've been doing this with this same hat for like 8 years on this channel. 6 years, however long. 2018, 6 years. I tell you what, one of my skill sets is when I figure out that somebody thinks I'm dumb or stupid or just an old hillbilly, I'll let them think that all the way to my bank. Maybe this is to get them close enough to get them on camera, because maybe they confuse this with the white light. Makes them think I'm good. And that's why I probably captured him, her, it, or they on video more than any other cryptozoologist ever. Like, ever. Yeah, you've seen the videos. You've seen them. You point them out when you timestamp it. All right. Then Lynn McGraw, 8809, says, there are other cryptids that tree knock as well. So that's two different people saying it's different cryptids knocking to protect the Bigfoot Sasquatches. And I get on that roll about science again because think of the honeybee hive. You have a bunch of bees living together. It's coming. All right, come on, last comment. I'm going to talk more about bees next time. Last comment, and I'm skedaddling. Is that Joe Biden? Oh, wait, that was from that one video of that old man rolling down the hill. It's got like 6.1 million views. People are always like 20 times a day. Is that Joe Biden? Is that Joe Biden? I don't think so. I mean, it's possible. I doubt it. I mean, when that video was made in 2021, so he was probably up in D.C., but I mean, that's just 2.5 hours north of me. I don't think it was Joe Biden, that old man rolling down the hill like he had dementia or whatever. Who was it?